Sometimes the lens lies, and sometimes it shows what should never be seen. I wasn't searching for horror. I wasn't searching for ghosts. I only wanted a picture, an old quarter, forgotten streets, stone houses pressed together as if afraid of loneliness. The night was empty, no steps, no voices, only the wind chasing scraps of paper down the road. And then I saw it. The house. 3 floors, broken windows, a faded sign above the entrance, once a photographer's studio. I raised the camera. Click. The sound was too loud, like a gunshot in the silence. And then it began. The feeling. Someone standing behind me, watching, breathing. I turned. Nothing. Only shadows. But later, in the red light of the lab, the image appeared, slowly, line by line. The house, blurred, faded, and in the window, a figure. Not a glare, not dust, not chance. A person looking straight at me. I swear the windows were empty. I swear I was alone. But the photograph said otherwise. And then I understood. I had seen what was never meant to be seen. And worse, now it had seen me. I couldn't sleep that night. The photograph lay on the table, like a living thing. I could almost hear it breathe. It seemed to change. Barely. The figure in the window seemed to shift. And the longer I stared, the stronger the trembling inside me grew. I tried to convince myself. It's just reflection. A trick of light. A flaw in the film. But my heart knew it was a lie. A foreign shadow had entered my life, and the photograph was the door I had opened. Morning brought no peace, only exhaustion. And then the phone rang, harsh, insistent, as if someone demanded I answer. I picked it up. Silence. Only breathing. Long. Heavy. Not mine. You. So. Me. I froze. The voice was cold, not alive, as if the abandoned streets themselves had spoken. I wanted to reply, but my throat was dry. The line went dead. I looked at the photo. The figure in the window was still, but I knew. It saw me. It recognized me. All day I wandered my apartment, like a beast in a cage. The camera lay nearby, a weapon, or a curse. The thought would not leave me. I must go back, take another shot, maybe, prove it was imagination. But as evening fell, I realized I wasn't going to the house. The house was waiting for me. It breathed. Its windows stared, black and endless. I still took the camera, and I knew there was no turning back. I returned at sunset. The city seemed deserted. The few passers-by hurried past. None of them looked at the house. As I drew closer, it seemed different. The facade loomed taller, the windows deeper, as if they led not into rooms, but into other worlds. I raised the camera, click, and again, the feeling. Someone stood behind me. I turned. Nothing, but I felt the gaze. I took a few more shots and stepped to the door. It opened on its own, creaking, as if inviting me. Inside smelled of rot and dampness. The floor moaned under my weight, but the silence was heavier than darkness. I stopped at the stairs, the second floor, where I had seen the silhouette. Then, a faint rustle above. I raised the camera. Flash. For a moment the corridor blazed in white light. Peeling walls, empty doors, only emptiness. But no. For the briefest instant I saw it. A shadow, without form. Yet I knew it was him. I don't remember how I fled. Only the cold air outside. Only my hands clenching the camera. The house stayed behind. Dark. Silent. Alive. Later, when I developed the film, my heart stopped. In one photo the staircase was empty, but in the next, a figure, black, faceless, standing in the middle of the stairs. And the worst part, its head was tilted, looking not at the empty hall. It looked straight into the lens. From the moment I left that house, I was never alone again. Street, room, even my own thoughts. Always a weight, a shadow, a presence. At first I thought fear, but fear doesn't move, doesn't breathe, doesn't stare into your skull. I kept turning my head, expecting a silhouette, always emptiness. But at night, it grew unbearable. The walls breathed, the air thickened, and in the silence, a rustle like bare feet crossing the floor. I froze, and the dark froze with me. One night I woke, a sound, a palm, sliding across the floor. I looked into the corner, and there it was, a shadow, darker than the dark itself. I hit the switch, light, empty. The lamp flickered, died, and in that moment, the dark pressed closer, almost to my face. I ran to the table, to the photographs. Maybe they had the answer. And they did. On the self-portrait I took, a figure stood behind me, blurred, head tilted, as if whispering, "Now you are mine." I understood. The house was only the beginning. The photo, the door, and what I let in now lived with me. Days dragged like thick tar. Morning, evening, they became the same. The light lost color. Everything turned gray. I tried not to look at the photos, but they pulled my eyes. Cold, breathing. The figure grew clearer. First mist, then outline. Now shoulders, arms, head tilted. But the face, always hidden. I tried to destroy them, burned one. That night, the walls smelled of fire. I turned, and on the wallpaper, a scorch mark. The same silhouette. I cut another photo to pieces, scattered them. Night. I woke, a rustle of paper. The pieces lay by the bed, gathered, formed a blot, a shadow. I stopped fighting, but the reflection lived on. In the mirror, something stood behind me. And one morning, a crack. It split my reflection in half. Behind it, a figure, still, waiting. I understood. The photo was no longer bound to paper. It spread into mirrors, walls, my mind. And each day, the border grew thinner. I couldn't sit still anymore. Every day the border thinned. If I did nothing, it would take my place. I had to know the truth. I went to the library. Old lamps, yellowed pages, and there I found his name. The house belonged to a photographer, Stanislav Kraev. His studio was famous. They said his portraits were too alive, as if the soul itself imprinted. But then, people vanished. Clients never found. And then Kraev himself disappeared. The workshop closed. The house abandoned. I trembled reading. I saw again my first shot. The silhouette in the window. Could it be him? Or what he had unleashed? One old journal told the legend. Kraev sought to capture not just the face, but the essence. Photos that could not be destroyed. Burn them, and the images returned. I slammed the folder shut and felt someone behind me. I turned. Only the librarian. But my heart beat like a trapped bird. I walked into the night, and I knew. Photos, mirrors, shadows. They are links of the same chain. I let in what should never have been let in. And now it seeks the final way out. After the library, I couldn't find peace. Kraev's name stayed in my head. The truth was close, but slipped away like water through fingers. One evening I returned to the house, not to shoot, just to see, to prove it still stood, that I wasn't insane. Twilight thickened. The house towered above me. Windows empty, black. And at the gate, an old man sat, bent, wrapped in a warm coat, face lost in shadow. "You're looking for something," he rasped, without raising his eyes. I froze. He spoke before I even stepped closer. "This house," I began. "Do you know what happened here?" He gave a dry laugh. "None live here, but some remain." Cold ran down my spine. "You mean the owner? The photographer? Kraev?" The name changed his face. He lifted his eyes, fear in them, and knowledge. He is not named. He left in glass and paper something stronger than a man. You thought you photographed the house. Number. It was he who photographed you. The words struck like a blow. I wanted to ask more, but the old man rose, turned, and walked into the darkness. I stood alone, staring at the second floor windows. And then, in one of them, a figure, still, watching. For the first time I felt my eyes were no longer mine. I looked, but saw through another's vision. I ran home, almost sprinting, as if chased. The door shut too softly, too quiet, as if I had locked myself inside, together with what I wanted to escape. The room greeted me with half light, but the air had changed. Thick, heavy. I inhaled and tasted dust. I turned on the lamp and froze. The photographs were on the table again. Though I had locked them away, they had changed. The figure clearer. Now, arms. Long, too long. Reaching forward. To me. I stepped back. The lamp flickered. And on the wall, a shadow. At first it matched mine, but then, slowly, it tore away. My shadow stayed. Another stood beside it, taller, twisted. I couldn't move, only my heartbeat, hammering, ready to burst. The shadow stared. I felt it. And then, its hand twitched. One step closer. I bolted, rushed into the hallway. The door slammed, but I knew it had followed. I had no shelter left. Since then, night ceased to exist. I lay down, but there was no sleep. Instead came something else. Viscous visions, walls breathing, clocks melting, like metal and fire. I walked corridors. They weren't in my house. Endless, lined with doors. I opened one and found photographs. Mine, hung like paintings. On the first, the figure was far. On the next, closer. On the third, right in front of the lens. I woke in terror, but on the table, the photos had changed. The figure had moved, just like in my dream. I lost count of time. Day lasted minutes, night, eternity. The clocks betrayed me. Hands froze, jumped, spun wildly. I went outside. People passed, but their faces blurred, like ruined film. They did not see me, but worst of all, mirrors. I avoided them. Yet sometimes, a glimpse caught me, and there I was, and not me, a figure with a hollow face, and behind it, she stood, still, patient. Each day I felt my body was not my own, my movements foreign, my speech late, like an echo. Sometimes I saw not through eyes, but through glass, through the lens. I feared only one thing, that one day I would wake and learn it was never me looking. It was her. I waited for weeks, convincing myself, arguing with the voice, a voice not mine, cold, harsh. Don't touch the camera. Don't you dare. But that warning proved the answer. If it feared, then I must. I lifted the camera, cold, heavier than it should be, alive, and inside the glass, something moved. You're not mine, I whispered. You're the door. I smashed it against the table. Metal bent, the lens intact, again and again. The room rang, not with shattering, but with echoes. Finally, a crack, and through it, an eye, black, endless, a gaze. It looked right at me. I screamed, threw it to the floor. Glass burst, metal scattered. Silence. Then breathing. Long, heavy. Not from the camera, from the room. The photos trembled, the wallpaper darkened, shadows bled through the walls, and behind me, a step. I knew then, the camera was never the source, only the key. I had opened the door, and now it no longer needed the glass. After I broke the camera, I waited for relief, but it never came. It only grew worse. First, my eyes. The world dulled, colors drained, lines shook, as if I looked through warped glass. Then, the sounds. Rustles, breathing. But now, inside me, my lungs filled with air not mine, my heart beat to another rhythm. I avoided mirrors, but sometimes I caught my reflection, and in my eyes, a gleam. Cold, foreign. I began to forget words, simple phrases. My tongue tangled, as if someone interfered. And in those moments, a whisper, soft inside my skull. I am here. You were my film. The photos kept changing. Now they showed me, standing beside the figure. On one, her hand on my shoulder. On another, I smiled. A smile not mine. Each day, less of me remained. Memory slipped. I couldn't recall names, faces, but new images filled me. Stairs, rooms I'd never seen, all grey, all grainy, like old photographs. I understood. I was no longer human. I was becoming an image, and deep inside I knew soon she would take the place entirely, and I would vanish like a blood frame, discarded, forgotten. I told myself I could resist, that there was still time, but each morning the world changed again. Today the walls cracked like old film. Light through the window fell in stripes, as if I looked at a faded photograph. I stood, took a step. Click. Not the creak of boards. Click. Click. Each step, the shutter. Each breath, exposure. I screamed, but the sound was not a voice. It was dry static, like burning paper. I tore at the photographs, ripped, crushed, scattered. But then the walls shuddered. New images appeared on the wallpaper. Mine, me, standing by the window, sleeping, sitting at the table. Shots I never took, but someone took them. Here, now. I rushed to the door. It would not open. Metal cold, sealed shut. I understood. My apartment is a camera. My life, film. I am the image. The shadow emerged from the wall, no longer hiding. Shoulders, arms, head tilted, like a photographer judging his frame. The picture was ready. I closed my eyes, but even there, the grain burned inside my lids, and she stood within it. Resistance was meaningless, but despair drove me on. I had to tear the frame, or vanish forever. I was tired. Resistance drained all human from me. Sleep, memory, thought, gone. No return. Only one task remained. End the link. I gathered the photos. There were more than I ever took. They had appeared. On some I stood at the window. On others I slept. Always she beside me, closer each time. until her outline merged with mine. I laid them on the floor, an altar. At the center, a portrait, my face. Her shadow bent over me. I lit a candle. The flame shook. The air froze. If you want my life, take it. But I'll take you with me. I touched the fire to the print. Paper curled. And then a moan. Not from the room, from the film itself. Voices, thousands, all speaking one word. Too late. You are ours. White light split the air. A shutter snapped, and I saw her. Not a shadow, not a blur. She stood before me, real, where a face should be, a black lens, and in its depth, me. I knew to burn the paper is nothing. The negative lives inside. Her hand touched my shoulder, cold. My body cracked, like film in acid. The end was near. I was no longer a man. I was a frame, a photograph. All that remained was the final click. I don't know how long passed. Minutes, centuries. The world was gone, as if the last pages were torn from a book. Only white emptiness, grainy, like ruined film. I tried to move, but my body was frozen, fixed, a captured frame. I breathed with someone else's lungs. Dark liquid pulsed in my veins. And then I saw it. The gallery. Endless walls. Covered with photographs. Faces. Strangers. Each staring with silent horror. Eyes screaming. Mouths sealed. I knew then I was not the first. This was a collection. A library of shadows, and among them, my own image appeared. Silhouette, arms, face. The figure stood beside me, its black lens locking me in place. Forever. The last shutter fell. I understood. I was gone. Now I am the photograph. Now I am the deadly frame in someone else's album. And if one day someone stares too long, they will see me, and their face will be next.